I could not agree with get rid of the ego. Your ego is your human self. And therefore, if you get rid of it, you have croaked, my friend. Don't worry, when you croak, the ego will stay here, so we don't have to worry about that. But it's not something that is effective and or necessarily good for you in the realm of spiritual growth. Welcome to Intuition, Your Joy Compass. This is the podcast where intuition gets embodied and joy leads the way. This is where we integrate your humanness and your soul. They don't have to compete and they don't have to work against each other. Your soul comes in with joy. Your human self wants to learn joy. It just makes sense to merge them. I'm Vicki Baird, your intuitive guide, and also your wisdom-led mindset coach. And I want to bring the truth that you do not have to transcend your human experience to feel lit up and to feel aligned. You need to integrate it. And that is what we will do here. Well, hello there, beautiful one. I almost said, this is Vicki, but you know this is Vicki if you're listening to this podcast or if you've listened to previous episodes. Maybe you haven't listened to previous episodes. Welcome. Thank you for being here. This is, I haven't announced it, but this is the 6th episode in what I was calling a series of clarity. And if you listen to the last 5, you'll notice the theme running through it, but I decided I'm not going to announce the series. I need to know that there's a series. You don't necessarily need to know there is one. So in this week, we're talking about living from clarity, not performative clarity. And I'll explain what the heck I mean by that. But I want to talk about it because it's very subtle and yet it's powerful. That performance, even in personal growth, especially in spirituality, it's easy to start managing how we're perceived. To want to sound clear, look grounded, say the right thing, be in alignment, always act from the highest intention. I have met many people who were performatively spiritual, and I've often said that if you have to tell me you're spiritual, I know we're in a performance and you're not actually living in spirituality, because to live in spirit means that you embody and you do the best you can with what you have and you keep learning and keep expanding. But if you have to tell me that you're really spiritual, you are performing for me. And I appreciate that, because the heads up is nice, because then I don't waste time having deeper conversations, because it probably won't land. And I do not like a yes answer for the sake of a yes answer. I want deep conversations, and deep conversations can be however you talk to yourself today. We don't necessarily have to get into the meaning of life, but that performance, I don't know about you, but I have found it to be exhausting. And I didn't know I was doing it for the majority of my 30s and my 40s. Like, I really didn't. I thought I was helping people. I thought I was trying to be of the most service as I possibly could. And I thought I was just trying to make it through life, raising 3 kids, marriage, and working and volunteering and all that jazz. But I realized once I started really looking at my own behaviors and learning from my amazing clients that I was pretty much in performance the majority of my life. And what I mean by that is I was performing clarity. I wasn't living from clarity. And it's something, performing clarity is what you're trying, something you try to demonstrate, right? Like you try to prove to other people. And it looks like explaining your decisions so they'll make sense to others. Over preparing, over processing, over talking. I had to learn to shut my mouth. I'm a good talker. I like to talk. And now I so love to listen. I prefer to be the one listening now. And performative clarity also looks like checking how something lands before you trust it, asking too many people's opinion, and not listening to what feels right in and of your body, and feeling a pressure to sound wise, grounded, and confident. I definitely felt this one because as the town intuitive and medium, I was looked to as that person who should know all. And I even had some people say to me, "Well, shouldn't you know this?" And I'm like, "Listen, psychic doesn't mean I read minds, and it doesn't mean I know everything. That's not possible." But I felt that pressure because it also reinforced a message I heard growing up. Like, don't be too smart, but help us figure out how to pay the mortgage even though you're only 12 years old. So underneath it, there's typically a question running in your head like, do I look clear enough? Do I look smart enough? Do I sound like I know what I'm doing? It's even when it's polished, it's exhausting because part of you is monitoring yourself the whole time. Like you're just like, "Oh, do these people like me yet? Did I sound smart? Am I the expert?" And I don't know about you, but thinking in life, it can be tiring enough. I don't need to be editing and preparing everything I wanna say. I used to do conversations before I even met up with someone, and I'd be like, "Why am I even going now?" But the more I've learned that the more that I trust myself, the less I feel even a necessity to explain. And you know what's really fun about this? I'm just realizing this now. So my partner, Mike, his mom is 84 this year, I believe, and she I know she loves me, but she doesn't quite get me. And I used to feel like I needed to explain what I how I felt about something or how I came to something. And then, almost try to convince her that I'm good for this guy that you raised all those years ago. And she's been such a wonderful teacher for me because she doesn't get me, and I know that, and I adore her, and we've not had a conversation about it, but because I know she completely doesn't get me, it's given me permission to not even try. I have to have manners and total respect that this is my partner's mom and that she's a beautiful soul in this world. That I no longer have to try to explain anything because she doesn't get it, and I don't think she's interested in getting it, and that's beautiful because the less I need to convince, the less I have to manage how I'm received. And then I know I show up in more authenticity because I'm not trying to make someone like me or even I'm not looking for that approval either. It's part of us that I feel like it comes from the child self that is still looking for the approval of elders, even though I'm sitting here at 56 years old. So that's what we're talking about today is what it feels like to stop performing your wisdom and actually live from it in real time, in real life. And knowing that you don't need to manage how you're perceived to be effective. I would even say that you can't manage because that's somebody else's perception and not ours. So, with the performative clarity, I've also noticed how personal growth can become another performance. I've seen a lot of competition in this, especially at places that purport to be spiritual in nature. There's a comparison game that goes on. How many yoga classes have you taken? Have you done a vision quest? Have you gone to Machu Picchu? All of these things that back in the day, I used to look at people and feel utterly confused about why are we competing about what we were supposed to be doing for ourselves, how our personal growth has quietly become another place to perform. And then that just gets exhausting, doesn't it? Like, that is another level of inventory. And I know it goes against our soul because our soul is just like, what can I learn? Everything feels so good. I love expanding. I love feeling settled and internally referencing instead of externally referencing. So internally checking in with self to see what lines up, what doesn't line up, rather than externally. Does that make sense? Is that what you've got? I remember there was a book club. This was back in the early 2000s. There was a book club going around, and it was with Oprah and Eckhart Tolle. And I genuinely wanted to enjoy the book. I so love the idea of getting together with like-minded people and doing a lesson each week and what that would mean energetically. I know it did wonderful things in the world. I couldn't agree with his message. I could not agree with get rid of the ego. Your ego is your human self, and therefore, if you get rid of it, you have croaked, my friend. Don't worry, when you croak, ego will stay here, so we don't have to worry about that. But it's not something that is effective and or necessarily good for you in the realm of spiritual growth. So there was this competition going around online, but also within the group of how they've walked through the chapters and, oh, I got rid of my ego this week. I wasn't upset by anything. And I left the group because I just could not externally perform. I could not pretend that this was okay with me and that we were making someone a guru. I do not believe in that, because guru should be, gee, you are you and you're awesome in the way you are. So personal growth can quietly become another place of performance. And because we want to belong, let's just be clear about that. Every one of us wants to belong. We might not want to hang out with people all the time, Lordy no, but we want to belong, and it can be very intoxicating. But that gets exhausting managing yourself. So that takes time. I think everybody has to walk that walk on their own and decide which place they'd rather be living from. Is it clarity and or is it performance? Some people really like that. But performance clarity often feels tight in your chest. It's very mentally busy, like a lot of thinking and slightly urgent. Like, got to get this out. I got to tell you about myself. Whereas living from clarity feels settled. It's slower. It's very grounded in the body. You're the same person, it's just very different nervous system state, like, where are you operating from? And to be clear, I don't think we can be in, like, living from clarity 100% of the time, because if you're living in clarity and you're calm and you're grounded in your body, you're going to want more growth. And when you want more growth, you're going to expand a bit. And then when you expand a bit, it's going to feel uncomfortable. And then you're going to somewhat feel like you have to perform because you're not sure where you belong or how you fit. So it can become a cycle. So it's something that I think once we have maybe points of reference, you can feel it out, play it out. So described what performative clarity is, explaining your decisions and, feeling that pressure to sound smart enough, but living from clarity looks and sounds like and feels like you decide and then letting it be done, whatever it is. You actually say less, not more. You become that listener. You want to know what someone else is experiencing, and do they have information you don't have? You don't need to stay in agreement to stay steady. And that was one of the things that I learned the most from Mike's mom, is that we fundamentally disagree on a lot. But I didn't have to agree with her, nor did I have to take a stance. I could be firm when I felt like it was extremely disrespectful to persons that she might be referring to, and I did. But I didn't need to stay in agreement to stay steady. I stayed steady within myself. That took practice. I admittedly, speaking and having that boundary was a little nerve-wracking for me, but thankfully I have the best partner in the world for me. and he fully supported it. What living from clarity also looks like is acting without rehearsing the explanation. Like, you just have a conversation. You don't have to go over it in your head 58 billion times. You know what's important, what you wanna say, and then you say it. Because if you're coming from that space, you are authentic. And I think adjusting without self-judgment, it's a practice. It's definitely something that I feel like we all, once learned, need to practice daily because it really is easy to pick on ourselves. But adjusting without self-judgment may look like, so if you decided something and you let it be done, but then it needed tweaking, you don't judge yourself for what you needed to adjust, you just adjust. And you don't beat yourself up. You say, "Okay, well, I have more information now, and let me see where I go from here." And then an internal question changes more to, "Does this feel true enough to move?" Rather than, "Did I make my point? Do I look clear enough yet?" And then once it does, you decide, even if it's imperfect, even if it's unseen. Like, most of the growth that I go through, I don't tell anybody. I don't need to announce it on social media. I tell you guys because, let's face it, we're friends. And I believe you really care if I'm doing well. So that living from clarity, it isn't a vibe that you broadcast. It's a relationship that you keep with yourself. And when you live from that, you don't need to convince, and you don't need to manage perception, and you don't need to perform wisdom. And you know what's really ironic here? People trust you more, eh, because you are grounded. Like, it's very appealing to be with someone who knows themselves so well that they do not need to leak all over the place and look for reassurance or complain. One of the things that I ask myself in conversation, am I about to explain or am I about to act? If it's explain, I pause. Now, this is in my life and everything, because obviously in coaching, sometimes I am explaining the process, how to get to clarity. That's my job. But I'm talking about more making decisions in your life or conversations that you may have. If you feel like you're about to explain, just pause. Just pause. And if it's act, you're probably in clarity. And what if you paid attention to that this week? What if you listened a bit more to the conversations going on inside your head, but also that are coming out of your pie hole? And what if you decided to say less, decide once, and stay with it? Say less, decide once, and stay with it. Now, that time frame in which you stay with it will be dependent on what we're talking about. Is it a menu that you created for the month so you don't have to think what's for dinner every night? Oh, is anybody else tired of that question? I prepare it on Sunday. I do my week long, and it gets moved around. Like, we might not feel like, vegan chicken and rice, which is my current obsession. So it may end up being something else, and that I had planned on Thursday night just gets moved to Tuesday night, right? That's flexibility. But if you stop over preparing and you will become more impactful. You will be more clear in your life, and you will just feel better, because that's true authenticity. And when you feel truly regulated, grounded, it feels really good to others. Sometimes I feel like this is my gift where I volunteer, because it's the gift I want to give them this year. Is my regulation brings calm. It brings calm to the animals, it brings calm to the owner, it brings calm to the other volunteers, I hope, because I know my playfulness went a little left. It just left for a little bit. It got a little too serious. And my saboteurs took me for a ride. And ironically, we don't ride the horses there, but showing up regulated, showing up grounded, and knowing that this is a gift I can bring the world when, let's face it, it feels very chaotic right now. It is very chaotic. It doesn't just feel like it, it is chaotic. But bringing that regulation allows us to live, and it allows us to really thrive and to enjoy our lives. And you sleep really well. And things that were a big deal before are not a big deal. You just kind of roll through them. So clarity doesn't have to be impressive. It's not something that you get online and you say every day, I'm very clear. It needs to be lived. It needs to be embodied. And I really feel like the more people knew, if more of us know ourselves this clearly and we like ourselves, then we are going to emit that to the world. So less performance, more real. And I believe that's what people, all you beautiful souls, are calling out. There's like this call to action from universal energy, or from humans to universal energy, to create this realness. And I love AI. I absolutely adore AI and everything that it's going to enhance in our lives. And it's creating a desire for truth, for real humanness, and authenticity and clarity can be that gift. The regulation of self can be that gift. And I'm going to absolutely encourage you to say less, decide once, and stay with it for whatever time frame feels relevant in your life and for the question or whatever task is coming. You have free will to change, of course you do, but if you keep bouncing all over the place and you keep asking other people, what should I do? How should I do it? That's not knowing thyself. That's handing over your power. So, and if you're realizing, oh, this is something I do, and I want to learn how to be in clarity for my life and live in clarity, not perform or feel like I have to perform. I'd love to have you in my Living in Clarity group. Starts April 22nd. It's an 8-week using the positive intelligence framework to help calm that brain, bring out your intuitive self, and feel grounded and calm and playful and hopeful. It also brings that too. It brings a belief that everything is okay. It's just in its process, and it's learning how to stop being hijacked by every thought that shows up in your head. And if that sounds helpful to you and you'd like to be part of this group, I'd really love to have you here. And it creates a community. We have several other groups that have already gone before you, and we get together once a month and have our meetups to stay in touch and to connect with each other and support living in clarity. So if that sounds cool to you, head on over to vickybaird.com. We'll put the link in the show notes as well. And come see me and sign up for this next cohort that's starting on April 22nd. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Intuition, Your Joy Compass. I'm so grateful you are here. And I'd just like to leave you with what I would consider a listening agreement. By listening to this podcast, you agree to stay open, curious, and connected to your own intuition. You agree to take what resonates and throw out the rest into your body, into your breath, and into your lived experience. You agree to honor your humanity, trust your soul's voice, and let joy guide your next step. This is not passive listening, and this is not toxic positivity. This is conscious receiving. Thank you so much for being here.